So thank you very much to everybody who's going to listen to our webinar today. We're going to have a chat about biosecurity and the new laws that were introduced on the 1st of July of this year and how it's going to affect agricultural shows. My name is Ruth Knight and I'm from the Queensland Chamber of Agricultural Societies, or otherwise known as Queensland Ag Shows, and I'm very happy to host this webinar today and very pleased and grateful to introduce Vern Doyle, who is from the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries. And Vern has agreed to present today and talk to us a little bit about biosecurity and to give us some advice and some information for all shows in Queensland. So thank you so much for coming along today, Vern. Now,
Thank you, Ruth, for having me on.
No, it's great to have you. Now, just before we get started, this webinar is obviously information that is for shows, but we are giving some very general information. So if you have any specific issues or questions about your particular show, we're going to tell you at the end where you can get some more information and advice that's specific for you. And also just to be aware that guidelines and laws do change very frequently, so please make sure that you're always updating yourself about biosecurity news and changes that occur. So yes, it's wonderful to have you, Vern, to tell us about the changes that have occurred recently and what we need to do to obviously protect not only our environment but also our animals and our visitors, because we want to make sure that agricultural shows are a safe and popular place for the community to visit and take part in. So thanks, Vern. Let's get underway and I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Ruth. I'll just start with putting another screen up for you to a slide presentation as we go through it. So as we said, this is the webinar for the Queensland Chamber of Agricultural Shows. So on the 1st of July 2016, the new Biosecurity Act came into being, so it affects all agricultural shows and that affects agricultural people. The idea is that now it becomes a framework to help minimise the risk and move through the risk so we can get over diseases or events quicker. So it's a lot more flexible than the old Act. The old Act was very rigid in how we said things must happen. This Act is much more flexible and allows people to find the best way forward rather than being told by government how to move forward. So as I said, it's more flexible. It helps allows organisations to choose the best way and the best method to get the best outcome for all involved. The key things, it's a shared responsibility. The big term we're going to use a little bit today is called General Biosecurity Obligations. You're going to hear that word a bit. It's the obligation that everyone has not to spread disease from one area to another area. And all the decisions are made on a risk-based decision making. You'll find that especially when we start moving cattle ticks. We'll talk a little bit about that later on in the slide. So what we've done, the Biosecurity Act has subordinate legislation, which is the regulation, and also you find out now that there is a lot more information on our website about movement requirements, how things move, so it makes it a lot easier for people to understand it. There is, as we said, it's people who deal with biosecurity matter. We're going to start talking different terminology than we're used to. Like biosecurity matter can be an animal, can be disease, can be plants. So we're dealing with more general obligations rather than just looking at animals. It's a whole approach for the environment. So as we said, it's a shared responsibility between government, industry and individual producers or organisations. So it's just not one person taking the lead role, it's everywhere taking the lead role and to get better outcomes for Queensland. So the shared responsibilities of government will be still involved in it. Industry will take more of a lead role. So their idea is that they can direct the government which way is the best approach. And on lower levels, you've got individuals who have a disease on their property. It allows them to find the best way for them to get out of that risk, out of that disease problem. So as I said, the government will still have an active role. We will supply the regulation and the compliance, the information and the education of how this will work. So we're going to work in partnership with everyone. We won't leave anyone out in the lurch and be on their own. So it's as we said, it's 3 levels of help. We've got to take all practical measures to prevent the control of disease. So we've got to make sure we're not spreading the disease from one area to another area. So we're not going to spread it from a property through the showgrounds to another property. So the show societies now have a responsibility to ensure that they minimise their biosecurity risks. In most cases, most show societies have this down pat very well. So won't be a great change for those show societies who have biosecurity plans in place, who know the movement and can control the movement of their animals. So you've got to find those show societies that have good practices already in place. It's not going to be a great difference to the show society. The biggest thing you're going to find with this new act is you must now keep movement records, and these movement records must happen for 2 years. You must keep these movement records for 2 years. You also must now know, especially for shows that are close to the cattle tick line or animals from the cattle tick free area come to the shows in the infected area and they've got to return home, they must know what their cattle tick requirements are. And also, again, as I said before, most show societies have a very effective biosecurity plan in place, so they know where their isolated areas are. They should make sure stewards know where these isolated areas are so they can point people into the right direction. The big thing is you also must know the risk of every carrier. So this just doesn't include animals now, it includes plant as well. And you must identify how to manage these risks. So you must know what is coming into your show and you must be able to identify what the risk is. Especially with animals now where you have animals, because there is no restrictions on the movement of animals because of Johne's disease, you must know what the risk is here. You must be able to determine if you can control that risk so you're not spreading the disease. So the thing is you must take all reasonable and practical measures to minimise the biosecurity risk. So you've got to know what the disease is and what the risk of the spread is and how it's spread. So you must go and either talk to your local veterinarian or talk to the local biosecurity officer in your area so they can guide you what are the best ways of doing this. This is the general biosecurity obligation. This is an obligation requirement all persons who deal with biosecurity matter or carriers. So matter is the disease itself, the carrier is the animal or the plant. If you know or ought to know that the proposed biosecurity risk, so if you know there is a risk there, you must be able to take all practical steps to prevent or minimise the risk. So you've got to prevent it from happening and spreading, or you've got to minimise that risk. This might include that you might have to isolate animals into a certain area so they do not come in contact with most of the animals on the showgrounds. So what is know or ought to know or reasonably know? This is what you should know about your animals or plants. You should seek advice for yourself for the appropriate treatment for the event. Definitely ask questions before accepting. So you've got to put a little bit more responsibility on the people who are exhibiting the animals or exhibiting the plants. You must ask them specific questions, especially regarding disease, especially yonis. You must start now asking them for what their status is. Also, if you want to, you can ask them for cattle tick status. So you must to prevent the spread of cattle ticks or disease. So ask of the exhibitors what their statuses are. Then you want to understand the removement requirements from your property. So what you've got to do to meet your obligation to go back home. What is reasonable and practical? This will include appropriate measures suitable to manage, say, for cattle ticks on your ground. So we'll talk a little bit more about cattle ticks, as this is the part that will affect most show societies, because cattle ticks animals from the infected zone will go to shows in the cattle tick free zone, and cattle tick free zone cattle will come to the cattle tick infected zone show. So this is how you meet your obligation, so you're not spreading cattle ticks back from the infected area back to the free area. So definitely you must have a biosecurity plan in place. Seek advice for the appropriate treatment, what you must do to treat these animals. Establish rules for the competitors to attend your event. Ensure these regulations are met before accepting animals onto your ground. So this can happen through different measures. We'll discuss that a little bit later on. So, and also understand the requirements for the movement of livestock to and from the showgrounds. So you want to make sure that the person in control of the animals, so these are the registered biosecurity entities now, so this is the person who is responsible for the husbandry of the animals. You've got to make sure the property is registered before you accept the animals, and also you've got to make sure the permit has there is a permit person who has a day-to-day control of the thing. So once the property is registered, they'll be given a PIC number. All show societies in Queensland have PIC numbers. So any animals you accept onto the grounds must now have a PIC number. And also, every time an animal moves from a property to an event, a movement record must be created. So there's going to be a fair bit more paperwork required to be stored by show societies. So, but you can put the emphasis back onto the exhibitors. Make sure they bring 2 copies, one for themselves, one for the show society. Therefore, you've met your obligations because you have a movement record that was created for that person. So this can be in any format as long as you captured it. It can be an email. It can be on a written piece of paper. It can be an NVD waybill. So it's up to you how you do it, but the best way to do it would be to get the exhibitor to bring 2 pieces of paper, one for them to keep, one for you to keep. The information you need to store is where the animal is moved from, where the animal is going to, and the name of the person who's receiving the animal, so where they're going to after the show, the name of the person completing the record, a description of the record, the date and the movement. And this must be kept for 2 years. So you can scan them, the records, and then put them onto a file on your computer and keep them there. Therefore you can keep them for 2 years, so you're not keeping a lot of paper-based information, so that's a simple way of doing it. So again, as we've said, you've got to control what's happened. This is just so I've doubled up on this one. Also, we must have a date of the movements. You also must keep a record of when the animals arrived at the event and when the animals left the event. But this can be done quite quickly on the records that the exhibitors give you, so you don't have to do a lot more work in collecting this information. But you must collect that copy of that NVD waybill or that movement record they have created. Covering cattle tick infected area to shows in the free zone. This also includes animals moving home, returning home from shows in the infected cattle tick infected area back to the cattle tick free area. It still requires that animals going to the cattle tick free area are free of cattle ticks. You'll find horses, sheep, goats are low risk, but no risk. They will get ticks on them and can transfer ticks, so they are not no risk animal. Exhibitors will have the ability to choose how they will discharge their general biosecurity obligations not to take cattle ticks into the free zone. So you can put the emphasis back onto the exhibitors to make sure this happens, or you can assist them to make it happen, like having a spray facility that you'll show. But this way you must get an accredited certifier in to do the spraying on the ground, or you can say, we don't want to do anything with the cattle ticks. We will send all our exhibitors back to a certified area to be sprayed or treated. That way then you've discharged your general biosecurity obligation by putting the emphasis back to the exhibitors, or you can get the accredited certifier to come to the show, do the spraying on the grounds, and then the animals can return home. So you've met your biosecurity obligations. So there is manuals on our website, on the DAB website, that helps you make this decision on which way to go. As I said, movement of cattle to the cattle tick-free area, so you can get the animals inspected on the grounds. You can have a cattle tick-free environment. This is what the RNA do. They inspect all animals from the cattle tick infected area onto the RNA grounds. If there's animals found with cattle ticks on the RNA grounds, they are immediately sent home. So that's how the RNA do it. They make sure the grounds are cattle tick free because they don't have animals on for 12 months, and it's easier for them to do it this way. For most show societies, they might find that it's easier to have the animals sprayed on their grounds to have it done. If horses, they could be in a stable and groomed area, then they can return home, or you can have an area for horses from the cattle tick free area to go into one space, and that's where they are sort of stable, and then you just allow them to go home. Again, how long the exhibitors will be in the cattle tick free area. The horses gates, if they go for 96 hours, they can return home without any treatments, but they must be inspected by the exhibitor to make sure they don't have any cattle ticks on them. Again, as we've said, inspections, this is the big thing. Inspect the animals onto the ground. Owners can do the treatment for horses and sheep and goats. For show societies now, like some shows will have sheep come from the cattle tick free area. They generally set up an area for them, so they've met their general biosecurity obligation. They've had animals away from the primary host, which are cattle. So therefore you've met your obligation by controlling the movement of those animals and the contact to other animals on the showgrounds. As we said, everyone in the organisation has a general biosecurity obligation to ensure that movement records are kept, and if you've got cattle tick requirements, that you also meet them. So you can do some of the obligation by having a certifier come to the showgrounds and do the spraying for you. For the primary haste, which are cattle and deer, and for secondary haste, you can put that obligation back onto the exhibitors that they make sure their animals are free of ticks when they leave your ground, and they sign their document to say that they have inspected those animals. If there is any questions, you're quite welcome to ask the questions. So if you can give me a call, or you can ring the call centre on 13 25 23, or you can go to our website, which is www.daf.qld.gov.au. So that's all the questions, slides I have, Ruth. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, Vern, that was absolutely excellent. Thank you so much. I think that the main thing I got from that was your emphasis on the fact that it is a shared responsibility, and we want to keep, you know, exhibitors and competitors coming to the shows, but we want to make sure that everyone's safe. So it's about that kind of really collaborative approach, isn't it? About working, obviously we've got to comply with some of the laws, but we need to make sure that we're working very collaboratively and have great relationships with the people that are coming on to the show or coming to the show.
That's correct. If everyone's got that responsibility now to share the responsibility. Before it used to be all government orientated, and these were our laws, but now it's more of a spread out that everyone has a responsibility. So again, the biggest responsibility is still with the exhibitors. They have the biggest general biosecurity obligation to spread the disease, but the show societies have got to make sure that they do not spread the disease. So remember, the exhibitor must tell you what disease they have, and then you make the decision if you allow them to come to your grounds or if you don't. So it's up to the show societies. If you don't think you can control that disease, you don't allow them onto your grounds.
So obviously that biosecurity plan and sort of thinking through some of the risks and making sure that everybody's kind of had a discussion about it or is aware of the risks, but we don't want to just, you know, say no, we don't want people coming, and we don't want to make it so restrictive that nobody wants to come to the show. It's got to be more of a kind of risk management process where we really want people to come and exhibit and compete, but we want them to do it in a safe way. So it's about educating everybody, isn't it? That yes, we want you to come, but we just want to make sure that everybody's safe.
That's correct. Yeah, everyone's quite welcome. If the show societies think they can control where they put animals, you're most welcome. It would allow them to have more animals or more exhibitors come to a show. If they think they've got a biosecurity plan, they know what their obligation is, they know how to control this disease, and they're most welcome to allow these exhibitors flexible, so that it'll allow more exhibitors to be able to attend shows.
Great. So it doesn't mean that you automatically just, you know, refrain from people coming or stop them from coming. It just means that you manage it well and you make sure that you're taking those, as you say, reasonable precautions to make sure that you know who's in your show, who's at your show, and you know if there is any disease and you know how you're managing it.
That's correct, yeah. So a bit more now, I think we've got to look at emphasis is that the exhibitors who are coming to the show must tell you prior to the show if they have a problem with a disease problem. Cattle ticks, it's not a disease problem, that can be controlled quite simply at the showgrounds, but looking like diseases like Yonis or something like that. We used to have restrictions, but now don't have any restrictions. So it allows more animals to come.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, we want more animals and plants there. Yes, absolutely.
That's it.
The other thing I just wanted to pick up on was the fact that these movement records have to be kept for 2 years, and I thought that your suggestion of keeping it on the computer or keeping it online is a good way of not making, like lots of paper everywhere and getting lost, those records. But also we need to make sure that people know where those records are kept if they are online or on a computer or on a disk somewhere. I suppose we also need a record of where those records are. Would you say that?
That's true. That's true. Yes, I would. Yes, yes. No, you find that now most show societies have very good. The secretaries have very good computer skills. They're very good at retaining information and holding information. So most show societies won't have a great problem with storing this extra information.
Yeah. Yeah, so great. So it's about just being, again, consistent, making sure you're collecting the right records and you know where they are, so that if anything in the future came up and we needed to trace those records, a show society would easily know where they are and how to locate that information.
That's correct, yes. Yes, for sure.
Right, well, I think that's fantastic, and really appreciate, again, Vern, your time and that excellent information. And as you said, if people have questions, they can go to their local biosecurity office, or they can call the department and sort of find out more information to make sure they feel really confident about, the obligations and how we're going to work together to make sure that everybody's protecting our environment, but our visitors and also the animals and plants as well. So thank you so much, Vern, for coming along. And if I can just turn to the show societies and encourage you to ask other people in your show society to watch this webinar. We're going to make it freely available for everybody to watch and have the discussion in your show societies and talk about what you are doing and what you need to do, and if there's any changes that need to be implemented. So thanks to everybody for watching this, and hope that you found it helpful. And thank you again, Vern. I'll say goodbye now, and we appreciate your time and the information.
Thank you.